Today, the day of this upload, marks an infamous day in history, the Ides of March, a day immortalized by Shakespeare. To continue the trend and fulfill what may have been Caesar's second greatest desire, don't quote me, I have no sources to back that up. We are going to spend today talking about Gaius Julius Caesar. Specifically, we're going to talk about that time when Caesar didn't do his job so bad, he had to fix the calendar system. It's time to talk about time and the fasty. Hello world, my name is Atticus, and welcome to the experiment. To start, let's define some terminology, like what is time? To put it simply, time is a unit of measurement with respect to change. For our purposes, we consider the change of the planet's position as it relates to the sun's location, as well as the moon's in relation to the Earth's. The fasti were calendars which listed what days a person could conduct legal business, when festivals happened, the dates of military victories, and other such events. Consider the fasti a utilization of time. Now, I don't want to speak on the fasti specifically, but they do serve as a great introduction to calendar systems, and are so fun to say. The Roman calendar system before the Julian was a lunar-based system. Supposedly, they counted months in accordance to the cycles of the moon. Specifically, a new moon meant a new month, and that new moon had to be observed by the Pontifex Minor on the Capitoline Hill so that he could announce the calends of the new month, or the first day. That's a lot. Can you imagine every month having to gather the Pontifex Minor and enough officials for the ceremony after dark to mark the appearance of the new moon, something which could be fairly easily calculated in advance? The Sumerians were using a set lunar calendar a little over 1,000 years before the Romans, with 12 30-day months, and the only observing they had to do was add an extra month every 4 years to line the calendar back up with the solar cycle. That leap month and month count isn't the only thing our calendar today has inherited from the Sumerians. They liked their calendar math to use the numbers 6, 12, and 60, which can be seen reflected in our 60-second minutes, 60-minute hours, and set of 2 12-hour days. The 6 doesn't seem to have made the cut, at least not overtly. But we're not here to speak of the Sumerians getting it right. We're here for the Romans eventually getting it kind of right. Rome had approximately as many calendars as they had codified systems of law, something which I know an alarming amount about. But since Julius Caesar never really dabbled in the codification of laws, beyond this, I will never speak of it. I will say that recently, someone mentioned to me being lost in online discourse because said discourse expected a baseline of knowledge, which this individual did not at the time have. Think people talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe when you've seen none of the movies. And my immediate thought and response was, whoever enchants away crops. So, that's how deep into the rabbit hole I am. The lunar calendar mentioned earlier probably wasn't the first calendar the people in that region used. The calendar of Romulus, the first king of Rome, consisted of 10 months, which some scholars claim had 30 or 31 days, but they're probably wrong because that doesn't make solar sense. A künstliche Konstruktion, as Ginzel put it, an artificial construction, as they attempted to think of ancient calendars in terms of their own time. This 10-month calendar more likely varied in days from year to year, going off of seasonal changes rather than a fixed number of sunrises. A month could have anywhere from 16 to 39 days. A calendar of this style makes a lot of sense for a more agrarian society. Say, March begins when the ground is ready for planting, and it starts with a planting festival to mark the calends. In a fixed calendar system, the festival would have to be delayed if the weather did not permit planting. With a more flexible system, the 1st of March happens when it happens. So, how did we get from this to the lunar calendar mentioned before? Most likely, it was the Etruscans bringing over their own calendar. Of the 7 kings of Rome, Numa Pompilius is usually credited with changing the calendar from Romulus's 10-month agrarian calendar to the 12-month lunar calendar. But Numa was Sabine, and the Etruscan kings didn't appear until closer to the end of the monarchy. It could be that Numa was credited with this change because he fit the bill. He does seem like the kind of king that would switch up the calendar. It could be that he did in fact do something to the calendar, whether the lunar change or just throwing in 2 more months for fun, or perhaps our assumption here is wrong and the lunar calendar is not of Etruscan origin. It's difficult, if not impossible at this point, to pin these kinds of facts down, but it would make a lot of sense if the lunar solar calendar was of Etruscan make. For example, what is something that a lunar calendar can do, but which a solar seasonal one cannot? That's right, long-distance time synchronization. At the time of Rome's founding, the Etruscans were a fair bit further along with the whole civilization thing, spanning a tidy length of the now Italian coastline and trading with other peoples. Evidence of Etruscan products have been found from Spain to Ukraine. The stars and the state of the land become increasingly less reliable as timekeepers the farther you are from someone else. Say you set a date for an appointment, a trade deal, or even a meet between old friends. Going off of the stars or land, it is possible, if not likely, for one of you to miss the meet by a few days because of how the stars are perceived at different parts of the world. The moon, on the other hand, is a bit more reliable in this regard. Regardless of how it happened, however, the calendar of Rome changed from seasonal to lunar solar. Around maybe the 5th century, early Republic definitely, the festival cycle was likely added to the Roman calendar. At this point, the festivals were likely not harvest ones, which allowed for fixed dates in a lunar solar calendar since the festivals were not dependent on the state of the land. This calendar, much like the Sumerians, needed an extra month thrown in every so often to keep things in track with the solar cycle. This very important job fell to the Pontifex Maximus, who would declare when an extra month, Mercedonius, was needed. This, in the time of the Republic, was a position ripe for corruption. Offices were held for a year or more, and if one person was able to determine how long or short a year was, they could potentially keep people in power or push them out. Naturally, due to the political clout that could be wielded in this position and the fact that the appointment of Pontifex Maximus was for a lifetime, Caesar sought and eventually claimed the position, and very shortly thereafter, kind of forgot about it. Now, I ran out of time for this video to double check, so I'm just going off of what I think is correct based on learning too much about Rome and Caesar at one point in my life, so don't quote me. But Caesar spent a lot of time campaigning all over the world, bringing glory to Rome and escaping legal and political trouble. During that time, he was unable to perform his duties as Pontifex Maximus, and the calendar got wildly out of sync. After a while, Caesar got help from some Greek mathematicians and astrologers, such as Sosigenes of Alexandria, and created a calendar that wouldn't require someone stepping in to fix it every so often. This was the Julian calendar, very similar to our calendar today, but with a few more leap years than necessary. Whether he did not want to have to deal with calendars anymore, or if he was attempting to create a major change in the status quo to facilitate certain other major changes, I'm not sure. But regardless, Caesar had the calendar mostly fixed. Well, this has been our Caesar talk for this year. Join me next Ides of March for more Caesar-related content. I have been Atticus, and thank you for participating.